always stand up and salute. We'll always recognize when we see old glory flying. There's a lot of men dead, so we can sleep in peace at night when we lay down our head. My daddy served in the army, where he lost his right eye, but he flew a flag out in our yard till the day that he died. He wanted my mother, my brother, my sister, and me to grow up and live happy in the land of the free. Now this nation that I love is falling under attack. A mighty sucker punch came flying in from somewhere in the back. As soon as we could see clearly through our big black eye, man, we lit up your world like the 4th of July. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist, and an eagle will fly, and it's gonna be healed when you hear Mother Freedom start ringing her bell, and it'll feel like the whole wide world is raining down on you. Brought to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue. Justice will be served and the battle will rage. This big dog will fight when you rattle his cage. And you'll be sorry that you mess with the U.S. of A. 'Cause we'll put a boot in your ass, it's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist, and the eagle will fly, and it's gonna be hell when you hear Mother Freedom start ringing her bell, and it'll feel like the whole wide world is raining down on you. All brought to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue. Of the red, white, and blue. Of my red, white, and blue.
black private dick. That's a sex machine to all the chicks. You're damn right. Who is the man that would risk his neck for his brother, man? Can you dig it?
Welcome to another live Radical Republicans live show. Trying to get my screen right here. Appreciate you bringing it back this week as we go live every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What is going on with the screen here? Let's see what's happening. But we're supposed to have a good show, very, very good show lined up for you tonight. Let me get out of here. I don't know what's going on with my screens here tonight. What's happening? But the technical difficulties is real. Been having some weird stuff happening lately with a lot of the equipment, a lot of things that's going on here. Just some really weird stuff. I'm gonna try to figure this out, and but welcome, like I say, I see you over there, Carolyn. Thank you for tuning in. See you, TBB, over there on Getter, in the Getter chat. About to jam it up a little bit and flex thinker. I see you over there. Thank you for tuning in, and everybody that's watching on Rumble X, and 3 channels on Rumble X. You got YouTube, and you have CloutHub, Facebook, all of them, and then after the show, it's on every major podcast station. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my screen here. Hold up. I'm going to figure this out, but I honestly don't know at the moment. So, hey, Susan, I see you over there. Susan's watching on YouTube tonight. I see you over there as well. And, my screen don't want to act right tonight. I don't know what's happening. Maybe, because I was messing with, I got a dual screen now and some stuff going on. But I'm going to figure this out for a second. Just give me a few minutes. So how was the weekend? I hope all your weekend was good. Everybody's weekend was fine. And, I had a pretty dramatic week. I'll tell you guys about that probably next week. But I had a pretty dramatic week. And so we're going to, let me see here. That's not happening. That's not the deal with that. That's not the screen. I'm going to pop out. It must be my screen. Something's going on with my screen. Okay, there we go. Boom. It's kind of weird. I had to do the solo layout. I'm not sure what's happening with the background, though, at the moment. But anyway, all right, so let me get to my sponsors real quick. But hopefully my guests are gonna be tonight. Supposed to have Ryan Matta on tonight and Oscar Blue Ramirez supposed to be on the show tonight. And okay, Ryan is here. So I'll bring him up in a second. Let me hit this supermassive black coffee real quick. Are you tired of the same old corporate coffee, diluted, devoid of character? It's time to break free from the chains of mediocrity with supermassive black coffee. Crafted from 100% organic beans, this coffee is fire roasted in a Victorian era roaster, and a relic from an age when true craftsmanship thrived. The unique process allows the flames to caress each bean, unlocking bold, rich flavors with dark chocolate undertones and a smooth, smoky finish. In a time of soaring coffee prices, the supply chain disruptions, supermassive black coffee stands as a beacon of quality and resilience. While others compromise, this brand remains steadfast, delivering a brew that defies convention and invites coffee lovers to explore the depths of flavor and mystique. Join the rebellion against the mundane. Visit supermassiveblackcoffee.com and use code MBN for 20% off your order. Embrace the conspiracy, sip the mystery. So I have an echo. See what's going on, man. It's some weird stuff going on today. And I'm not sure why I have an echo. Let's check it out. Let's check some audio stuff going on. I sort of hear echo on my own too. I'm gonna unplug something. Uh-oh. So how's the echo? Is the echo back? Yeah. Okay. I'm checking some audio stuff here. It's just really weird stuff going on. Before I bring on the guests, because I don't want to have audio. I don't want to have a bunch of feedback going on. Nope, echo cancellation is on. Mono. Making sure ain't no speakers on anyway. Okay, so all right, thanks for that, Ryan. I appreciate that. I'm gonna try to kill some echoes here. But anyway, got Ryan Matta. I'm gonna play a clip before I bring Ryan on though. Let me play a clip before I bring him on.
Oscar Blue, Ryan Matta. We are in a location in a really tough and rough neighborhood right here in the city of Tijuana, where more than 7 bodies have been found. And the 8th body we just recently found right here, it is a corpse, apparently a skull with a high caliber bullet in the head. And still, they're having a lot of bone fragments and human remains. Your impression right here, Ryan, as we're going to do this small documentary with Ryan Matta and also everyday report on our page. Ryan, your impression?
I've never seen anything like this. It's an absolute war zone down here. You would think this would be an area over in Afghanistan or Iraq, somewhere where you're digging up mass graves and beheaded victims. No, this is everyday life over here in Mexico, and what the citizens have to deal with. The look on these women's faces when they found that body, I was expecting shock and awe, tears. They are so normalized and desensitized because they are out here digging up mass graves weekly, and every time they come out, or almost every time they come out, they end up finding a body. That's how many mass graves are all across this country. The entire country of Mexico is a giant mass grave. And if it wasn't for the reporting and the connections that Oscar has, I don't know when the world would ever hear or see this evidence. So thank you for having me out, and I appreciate it.
Yes, we are going to continue reporting for every single one of you. Be sure to be watching Ryan Matta's reporting. This is going to be explosive. The documentary that is going to put out, it's a lot of things that you're going to be in completely shock and awe, as children or so, minors are involved and being missing because of the cartel and the abductions and the kidnappings. And it is up to these collective groups and also some governmental individuals to find the bodies and to find the mass graves in really tough and dangerous locations right here in Tijuana. Ryan Matta, Oscar Blue, reporting from Tijuana, Mexico. Stay safe.
Man, that's some crazy stuff. Hey, I'm gonna bring Ryan on. Hey, Ryan. Hey, man. I remember. Hopefully the echo isn't too bad. I don't know. It's something going on.
Not too bad.
All right, thanks. Hey, so I remember, being in the Navy, stationed in San Diego, going down to Tijuana, Mexico every single week, having a good time on Revolution Drive Avenue. It's going to have a good time drinking, whatever, dancing, partying all night long, walking back across the border, whatever, man. What's going on in Tijuana, man?
So Tijuana, I don't know when the violence really started and when things really kicked off, but I mean, it is dangerous down there, to the point where, as a journalist, if you're reporting, you're pretty much reporting with the blessing of the cartels because they're allowing you to report. And even if you get too aggressive or you report too often or you show up at too many crime scenes and you're making it too obvious about how bad the crime is there, you're probably not going to make it out of the next few crime scenes, or a cartel is just going to show up at your house. They're going to take you, kidnap you. Sometimes, if you're lucky, they have these giant wooden paddles where they'll beat your butt black and blue. They literally tie your hands down, tie your feet down, and they smack your butt with this paddle. They film it. They send it out to everybody. And that's kind of your one embarrassing warning that you got your butt spanked by daddy. Don't let it happen again. The next time you're dead. So that's kind of how these cartels operate down there. They got to the point where they're recruiting children because children are much easier to manipulate. So they actually use one of the girls that allegedly goes by the nickname Zero Nueve, and which means 09. And that's her code name or her nickname. She'll create new social media accounts and she'll prop up. She's taking photos with like a long artillery, kind of advertising to these kids. And then she just reaches out to these younger kids and she's like, hey, you're 12, 13, 14, 15. These kids are really easy to manipulate because they know how the law and the system works in Mexico. They know that they're just kids. They're just going to get tried as minors. So what they do is they tell the kids, you're going to make 10, 20, 30, 50,000, depending on the job that you're going to do. And to a kid that grows up in poverty and squalor, $10,000 is like Elon Musk money.
That's a
So
lot of money. Yeah,
they
no
convince them to
doubt.
do the job, and then after they do the job, they're then killing these children and burying them in mass graves. So that group we went out with of collectors to go look for those children was a 14 and a 15-year-old boy, and we found the body we found was so decomposed. It was been in the ground for about 3.5 years, roughly. They estimate based off the decay and the decomposition of the body, and we didn't come across those two children. But it's so bad that when we found the body, we kept digging for another 3 hours, hoping to find more bodies. But we didn't, and we ended up running out of time because eventually you got to end up calling the local authorities. And once the local authorities show up, they pretty much shut you down. They don't want you to dig anymore. So the site we went to was a mass grave that they already pulled out 7 bodies from. Like, let that sink in. They pulled out 7 bodies, and we went back there and found an 8th body that was less than like 12 inches tops under the soil. So like the government went to that location and obviously didn't clear it. Obviously had no desire to discover if there was more bodies, exactly how many more bodies were there. And then we were actually breaking concrete and getting ready to dig up the concrete because it was really bizarre that whoever had that property decided to pour that slab of concrete there. They never wanted anybody to dig below it. So we actually had a few guys come out, the military came out, and they borrowed one of these, I don't know what you call them, jackhammers. And we were actually breaking up the concrete, but we just ran out of time. So kind of the breakdown of Tijuana. It's dangerous, man.
Yeah, I mean, and I was definitely going to ask you, but you sort of answered it. The cartel allow you to do that for a short period of time, and I mean, so why do they allow that? Just for the fear factor? Is that what it is? That they want people to know, what's going on, and that they control Tijuana, they control the area, and
well, what we did was we went out with a group called their collectors. So these are moms, dads, sisters, brothers, aunts, and uncles who have all lost loved ones, and they basically have now dedicated their life to searching for their lost loved one. They're to the point where they have 0 Fs left in the tank, so they don't care. They're not afraid of the cartels, and then they basically go out in groups of 20 moms. So that way, if anything happened to them, number one, they end up going out and they get guarded support. So they get the couple of people from the military. They get people on the front driving a vehicle, and then they get a giant truck, like a military, I don't know what you guys call those, Humvees or whatever they are, that follows behind the group that are going. And then we all go out. They have to get into a government vehicle. It's like a government van that they use to transport them, because you can't even drive to the crime scene with your own car, because if they see your license plate, then you know exactly what happens. They end up showing up at your house. And you got to think too, this isn't like America, where we have the law or a legal system that, you have to know a cop or somebody on the inside to run a license plate number and get information about you. When the cartels want your information, they get all your information. They know where you live, where you moved, where you registered your house at. They know it all. So that's kind of how it goes. So we didn't get permission from the cartels to go out. The cartels will let you report to a certain extent, but when you're reporting, you got to be really careful to show the respect to the cartels. They control that territory. You're in their territory. So you're very specific to, number one, never name a name. Like, unless you had the dirt, and even if you had the dirt, you'd be suicidal to name the name, because he's going to go to prison and for a day, if he even gets arrested, and he's going to be released, and then he's going to come and kill you. Not just you, he's going to come and kidnap your children, and he'll butcher them right in front of you, and he'll kill you after the fact and spike both your heads on the goalpost out front. That's how they have no morals. No, the only rules that they have in Tijuana right now are, if you get caught selling fentanyl or meth to a Mexican citizen, you get your ass beat the first time, and the second time they kill you, because those drugs are not designed for the Mexicans. They are designed for the gringos, which is us Americans.
Oh yeah. So it's not. I was going to say, man. So they sell it to us, but people down there can't sell it to them. They'll kill you for saying. People, do you hear that? People, here in America, are you listening to that? Leftist, communist people that are, against Trump, that are against ICE, they're against the fight of fentanyl and meth coming across our borders. You guys are putting up this fight to allow this shit to happen, and they don't even allow it in Mexico. The cartels don't even allow it to be sold in their country. So what makes you think it's okay to fight against, ICE and Trump and DEA to keep our border secure, and to keep these drugs from coming into our country to kill the gringos, as they would call it? It makes absolutely no sense, man.
No sense. And think about that, what I just said there, right? They will kill children. They will kill women. They will cut your child's head off while they're raping your wife, and then they'll cut her head off, and they'll make you watch, and they'll cut your eyelids off to force you to watch while they do it, and then they'll hang both their heads, or spike both their heads in their front lawn or on your mailbox. and then they kill you. Like they don't have any morals about killing women. They don't have any morals about killing children. But the only one rule is that the fentanyl and the meth are for the gringos.
Can't sell it. Wow, man, that's amazing. That's crazy. So tell us about this documentary, man. That is Oscar going to be able to join us tonight? I know you said he might.
He's in some dangerous areas right now that he
Okay, I
hasn't
was
been able
about
to
to
get
say
out
he
of.
may
So
be. Yeah.
yeah, he's
Oh yeah.
it's
Safety
crazy down
first.
there, you know.
Safety
So
first.
I don't know
man,
if he's
no
going to be
doubt.
able to join us, but if he doesn't join us this time, I'll definitely get him on next time. Maybe we'll actually come live on your podcast and do a little hit next time we're actually out. We headed back down to Mexico in a couple
Oh,
weeks.
facts.
So.
Okay. Yeah, man. You just let me know and we'll do it. But definitely want you guys to be safe first, man.
Yeah.
For
So,
sure.
what'd you ask me about? Sorry, what was the question?
Your documentary. The documentary.
Yeah, so Operation Amber Alert regime change just released. That was, I believe it came on your podcast last time I released Operation Amber Alert Guatemala, right. And then regime change was actually going to be one documentary, but you know people can't sit through an hour and a half documentary, let alone a 3-hour documentary. So I decided to splice them in half and do them in 2 separate documentaries. I had my main editor edit the first one, which you guys saw, and then Regime Change was my second editor. So this was his first time editing a documentary. It was he nailed it out of the park for his first time, but it wasn't my main editor. That's like the wow factor. But next comes the Great El Salvadorian Comeback, God, Bukele, and Bitcoin. And this one releases tomorrow morning. I'm super excited about it. And this one will show, it's going to tell a story of I can't explain anything but like David versus Goliath, like what Bukele was up against to remove the cartels, the State Department, the CIA, USAID.
That's a bad dude, man. And look, Bukele is a bad motherfucker, bro.
No doubt.
Because and how he, maybe you can explain how he did it. I know the documentary will probably explain that, but maybe you can touch on that a little bit. But you have to understand the same shit that President Trump is going through now. You got the 3-letter agencies, you got the judges, you got all of the corruption with the politicians, you got all of this corruption with a lot of the law enforcement, like the FBI and things like that. How the hell did Bukele pull that off, man?
So there's a little bit of some conspiracy theories on the early days of how Bukele came to power. One of them is that Trump deployed some special forces to act as bodyguards for him and be his private security while he ran his election campaign. So that way he didn't get killed before he got into power. And then he also provided the additional technically guarding and support just to make sure they keep him safe. And I'm sure you go from maybe whatever the standard was down there in El Salvador. I don't know how secure the presidents are and the political figures in that arena versus how much power the cartel has. But I would assume that they probably stayed on for a little bit. They probably trained some of the El Salvadorian people. And then Bukele, his number 2 guy, I believe, is one of his really, really close friends, like a lifelong friend that, you got that 1 or 2 people in your administration that you can trust with your life. And that they're not going to be scamming you. I mean, you can do some damage to the deep state. So it took about 2.5 years. So he got elected, I believe it was 2019. And then it wasn't all the way until 2022. It was June of 2022 when he had started to build the mega prisons. He had started to round up some of the cartel members. And then the problem was that the judges weren't actually prosecuting them. So he was starting to make a bigger deal about the judges releasing these guys. He was showing their crimes on TV and the people that they killed. And the public was starting to really, really get behind Bukele. And then when he first started locking up the first batch of cartel members, the cartels went out and just were like, we're going to kill anybody we see. They went out and slaughtered 63 innocent civilians in one day. And that was their fatal mistake, because what that did is it created so much public outrage. And Bukele was already saying, hey, if we did it my way, this would have never happened. Let me do things my way. But in order to do my things my way, I need to suspend the Constitution, because he needed to remove those radical judges. So what Bukele did was number one, first thing he started to do was kick out USAID. Once he realized how USAID was running the show, he made it his mission to eradicate them. And when he got control of the government, well, first in 2022, when they killed all those people, right? That gave him the power to call an immediate Congress session, and he voted to temporarily suspend the Constitution. And there was so much public outrage that even the people on the left had no choice but to vote for Bukele. And even some of those people that voted, I think, are now in prison, because now he has been able to investigate and expose the crimes that they committed. They've been removed from power. I forget the numbers now. It'll be in my documentary. I think it was 8 judges, X amount of members of Congress, some city officials. And even like, I think 2 or 3 of the presidents are either on the run, dead, or have a warrant out for their arrest, or they're actually in jail right now because they were stealing from the government, or they were stealing from the citizens. So the entire country was rotten and corrupt. But after that, he started to clean up. He started to build the mega prisons. And that's when USAID said, because they were giving USAID was giving the money to the government, and then the government was distributing it to the organizations that they wanted. But because he got control of the government, he was getting all that money. So USAID goes, no, wait, you're a dictator. What we're going to do is we're going to give that money to the organizations that we think are going to use it best. And Bukele said, no, you're not. What you're going to do is you're going to give that money back to the American people. It's their money. It's not El Salvador's money. We don't want your money. Keep your money. So he cut off USAID. He built mega prisons. He arrested all the cartel members. And then I believe it was at one of his, I think it was similar to like a State of the Union where everybody's in one room. And he had his sergeant at arms lock that door once everybody was in that room. And he goes, I want to do this. I want every single member of this that's in this room right now, including myself. I want them all investigated. And I want you to arrest anyone that's committed a crime. And I think that took out the last remaining 4 judges or 4 politicians or whoever they were, arrested those bad boys. And then since then, over a 2.5-year period, he went from the deadliest country in the world to the safest country in Latin America. And a majority of citizens right now, like the number one leading cause of death in El Salvador is like car accidents, and then after that, it's like liver disease because the water is so contaminated. A lot of the locals actually drink the groundwater and the river water. It's not filtered. So they do have a few issues that they're working on. And the second rumor would have been that the Chinese Communist Party sent special forces because Bukele does have a really good working relationship with the CCP. They've invested a $1.1 billion in building a water filtration system because 95% of the water is contaminated because of improper sewage systems, corruption. The cartels were just dumping things in El Salvador. A lot of times they don't even have a trash company. The citizens just burn their garbage. It's kind of normal down there. And then they've already filtered 25% of all of the water in El Salvador has been restored. And in probably less than a couple of years, it will actually be closer to probably 100% of the water in El Salvador will be safe and clean again. And it's such a magnificent country. I can't talk more highly of it.
Yeah, man, I it's actually on my bucket list now. I put that on my bucket list to definitely go visit because I take a few vacations out of the country every year. And so El Salvador is at the top of my list now. I moved Barbados out and put El Salvador up on top of the list, man.
You won't be disappointed, man. Like I said, he, and then the next thing your audience should understand is the American government gave El Salvador $7.5 billion, and they have a population the size of like 6 million. So they literally probably could have given every citizen in El Salvador a couple $100,000, and I guarantee you the country would have been in better shape than it was. And then in 80 after, so here's how it works: USAID goes into the country, they take over the government, but what they do is they build a network of NGOs, and these NGOs are pushing their agenda, they're laundering money, they're recruiting the citizens, they're radicalizing the cartels, and these NGOs they're corrupt because a lot of times they're ran by a CEO, but he's normally not there. He's just the one collecting the multi-million-dollar paycheck, and it's all the local citizens that end up getting employed at that, which in a corrupt country end up being controlled by the cartels. So the cartels control the NGOs. So you have an NGO that funds an NGO that funds an NGO that commits the crime. They're raising hell in the country. But one of them is the National Endowment for Democracy, which acts like the recruiting arm for USAID. And they'll post job postings like, we need a El Salvadorian national that does A, B, and C. And once they find that person, they look for a media outlet that's failing. They go and they make some donations to keep it up and running in exchange for them picking the primetime news slots. They take their guy they recruited, they install him at that news outlet, and they run their talking points. And you have control of a media outlet, the main media outlet specifically in a country. You use that to leverage every politician that will do your bidding, and you use it to attack the politicians that won't. And over a 2, 4, 8, 10, 20-year period, you've literally co-opted enough of that government, and you don't even have to corrupt them all. You obviously want to leave a percentage of them who actually think they're going to make change and actually think that they can win and actually think they're going to make a difference. And you just keep them at bay because they don't ever have enough power, enough votes to really investigate or screw you over. And then if they do get too loud, you live in a corrupt country and it's, oh man, it's sorry, the cartel took him out. Sad. We really got to crack down on this corruption. What we're going to do is we're going to create this anti-corruption task force. We're going to create gang prevention programs. And we're going to create gang prevention programs. And that's how we're going to solve the problem in El Salvador. It was like they tried every stupid, retarded move to get him to control of his government, or that the previous presidents claimed they were, and none of it worked. And look, he did it in 2.5 years. And I think that what you're going to see here in El Salvador, when your audience sees my documentary, they're going to go, that's what Trump needs to do. And rumor has it that El Salvador, from almost back to 2019, was the test pilot. Trump knew what he wants to do and knows what he needs to do here in America. But it's so much easier when you can go, look at what Bukele did. Well, don't you want that here, America? And America is going to go, yeah, I mean, if we had to suspend the Constitution for a couple months, like, let's do it. And let's get
people
rid
are
of these
so scared of that, though. People, I mean, because you got these leftist communists that really don't give a shit about the Constitution anyway, right? I mean, because they don't, I mean, obviously their oath to the Constitution, to America, that means shit. But as soon as you talk about, suspending the Constitution, well, we said Trump, he said at day one he wanted to be a dictator, and he's going to be a dictator, and we can't have that. And I mean, so I honestly don't see how he can do it here. As far as that,
you call for a vote at any time. You can call for a vote, and if
absolutely,
I forget what it is. It's like 60% of the nation was willing to come to the voting box and vote in favor of basically any type of reform. But you would normally, in order to get that many people in the nation to wake up and say, hey, I need to go vote. This isn't like something like me and you could start a protest and go sign a ballot and get enough.
I mean, these people don't even vote in fucking midterms half the time. They don't vote, in off presidential elections, man. To get them to go vote, it's
but
absurd.
Listen, if you tell them that this vote is going to result in exactly what happened in El Salvador, that every single politician who played a role in any type of illegal activity over the last 20 years is going to be sent to the, Gitmo. Man, I could get my entire neighborhood of 70-year-old grannies out of bed at midnight to go vote. If that's the case, man, we're so fed up and our country's so.
I mean, and we're talking, and to be clear, if this was to happen, we're talking, Democrats and Republicans. It's not just one side, because we have criminals on both sides of the aisle. I mean, you know that. I mean, you know who they are most of the time, and especially what these judges are doing now, and these crooked politicians as want to go down to El Salvador and bring back criminals or bring back rapists that we're trying to get out of the country. And we have our politicians going down fighting for these. And these are the same politicians that probably has never stepped foot into a jail cell for any American. But we have them fighting on behalf of these illegals and these people that we want to get out of the country. So, I mean, dude, that would be a task. That would be a huge, I mean, I would be all for it, because, I mean, this country is so corrupt. I mean, because you look at what Doge did, right? Okay, so Doge exposed pretty much everything. Let's just say they exposed everything. They exposed all the NGOs. They exposed USAID. They exposed, the IRS and Social Security. They exposed, and then these son of a bitches turn right around, put it in a bill, and they fund the bill. The exact same stuff. And Elon Musk, like, you know what, fuck. Elon Musk is like, even Elon Musk, he threw his hands up. He's like, like, what are you guys doing, man? We did all this work. I did all this shit for free, and now you're gonna just refund it all? Make it make sense, bro.
You can't, man. They're criminals. They're pedophiles and criminals, and that's it. These people will never, unless you hold these people accountable and you actually hold their feet to the fire and you start dragging people off in handcuffs and you start arresting corrupt attorney generals like Pam Bondi, who has this power. And obviously, it's more worried about taking away your rights to own guns. She's trying to take away your rights to speak. She is the enemy, America. Wake up before you wake up and it's 1984. I mean, I don't know what else you need to see here. Like, our country is not going in the right direction. Trump's trying so hard, but we watched this for 4 years. And yeah, life got better and it was great for 4 years. And we were rah. And a lot of people put their head back in the sand. Like, I would have rather, like, if he's not going to put these people in prison, I would have rather he lost that election. Because everybody was getting so irate and they were so fed up. And if it has to come to the fact where we have to take our country back by organizing militias and joining into forces and doing this together, then so be it. But
this is why that's in the Constitution. It's in there for that purpose. To be able to end a tyrannical government. I mean, but how does Trump do that? Because it seems like to me, right? And it seems you put people in that you think will do the job. That you think is going to expose the Epstein list and start arresting the pedophiles, and you put them in there and rah from there. You get them in there and they don't do shit. I mean, so how many people do you have to fire and rehire before they get anything done? Because here's the fact of it. I call them all gatekeepers because I'm like, he really truly only had 2 years to get shit done before midterms. Midterms come around. We may not have the House, control the House and the Senate and the presidency. in 2026. I know that's the game. I ran for Congress twice, so I'm pretty hip to the con. And as I would say, these people that are balking on the bill now, they don't have to worry about primaries or losing their seat, because guess what? They're not up for election. So a lot of this shit is theater, man. So I mean, it's frustrating. It is totally frustrating. I know it's frustrating to people that trust Trump and trust the MAGA movement and things like that. But I mean, I don't. It makes no sense, and I'm still waiting on Bondi, and now I'm waiting on Cash to do shit, and then you got Bongino, man. They actually coming in here talking about Epstein didn't kill himself. Man, everybody knows Epstein killed himself. Come on, man. Come on. How you gonna sit up there and say, well, Epstein didn't kill himself because now you see the evidence? What?
It's like getting invited to Thanksgiving dinner after your family's created this magnificent buffet, and then you get belligerently drunk, and then you stand up on the table, pull your pants down, and just take a shit right all over it. Alex Jones said it best. You can't describe this situation. We fought tooth and nail. We worked our butts off. We built this immunity. We put Trump back in the White House, not just put him back in the White House. We gave you the House. We gave you the Senate. And this is how you show us that respect? I'll be damned, man. These scumbags need to be held off in cuffs, and we need to stop playing these games. We need to start calling out these fake MAGA influencers who are rah-rah-rah-ing us back into the sheep herd. Get back in there. Ultra MAGA. Trump's got this. It's cute. Trust the plan. I'm sick of it, dude. I'm over in Mexico digging up dead bodies. I'm going over and risking my life in Guatemala to bring you back hard drives and thumb drives that have offshore bank accounts of these scumbags. And they were over there raping children. 12-year-old boys getting hospitalized because ambassadors from America, an American ambassador, sodomized a poor little boy so bad he had to be hospitalized. And allegedly, him and his mother had to flee to Costa Rica. And if anybody doesn't have half a brain, the CIA is running a child trafficking ring out of Costa Rica. So the last place a family would flee for safety from this scumbag would be Costa Rica. Like they would be safe there if they're not safe in Guatemala. That's a joke. They killed the crypto billionaire. They found him floating outside of out in front of his oceanfront condo in the ocean 2 days after he said, "I'm not suicidal. If the CIA is running a child trafficking ring out of Costa Rica, I would never kill myself." Then like 8 hours later tweets out, "It's not just the CIA. My girlfriend's in on it too. And it's Mossad. And I would never kill myself." And the next day is in front of his condo in Costa Rica, floating in the ocean. And it was ruled a suicide almost immediately. That was like 3 days prior. He just closed a deal where he had set like $750 million. He created one of the largest decentralized crypto protocols. And somehow he allowed Coinbase to be the custodian of like $750 million worth of USD of Circle. And he moved it all over to their exchange like 3 days prior. And you see this and you hear this and you're just like, I think that the part of that deal was, okay, we got like they planted child porn on his computer and we're like, you better do this or else. And I think that was him saying, like going, you know what? F these guys. I'm just going to call it how I see it. I'm going to say what the truth. And he started to try to warn people and done.
Yeah. I mean, and you just told some stories and some things that, not lies, but stories that the American people don't know. They don't hear these things. I mean, because of course, the mainstream media is not going to say it. Most of the Republicans are not going to say it because I think a lot of them are in on it, So it's like, I'm sure, I can look in the chat and people are like, what the hell is Ryan talking about, man? Costa Rica. I just went on vacation in Costa Rica, things like that, man. They're running child rings all over the place. I mean,
so did your neighbor, and they went down there to sleep with a little boy.
Jeez, it's crazy, man. Unbelievable, man. And one of the things is too. I know Stu Peters. I'm friends with Stu Peters. Stu Peters goes hard as hell. Probably one of the hardest people I know that go on Israel. Don't give two fucks about it. And did the documentary Occupied. So are we occupied? Are we occupied by Israel?
Epstein was delivering minor girls to the president of the White House. Epstein is a Mossad agent. That's through and through. His girlfriend, if you'll call her that, Ghislaine's father was like a legendary Mossad asset who ran media companies, some of the largest media companies in the world. He played such a massive role in the Mossad operations. It's almost undescribable. That man is delivering underage girls like 19 times. He visited Bill Clinton in the White House. Bill Clinton flew on his private jet like 39 times. And listen to this. People always talk about the Epstein list as it's the end all be all, as it's the flight logs. The flight logs. We've had the flight logs. They've been declassified.
Yeah, we had them. I have them. I put out I mean, they have them on a little nice little PDF where you can actually read them now. Not the original flight logs. And and so I laughed when they gave all these right wing influencers. They had their little notebooks and they're taking pictures with the. I'm like, bitch, we had them already. What are you doing? There's nothing there.
Yeah, and who do you think? Listen to this. So Epstein in 2005, in 2012, we had Epstein's Black Book, right? That was purchased from somebody.
Right.
Epstein in 2005 gets busted. When he gets busted, the FBI had to go all the way to Australia to get a hold of Guilfoyle, right? The Virginia Guilfoyle, the girl who just passed away and just took her own life.
Yeah, the one that took her own life after being in a major car accident. Yeah, they didn't kill her, so she whatever, man.
So she writes a tell-all memoir, right? And I believe she went to put it out in 2019, and it got classified as evidence in the actual case. So they I think there was something on it, because I knew one of her friends that talked to her like at least once a month, and he never read that book. He was like, "What the hell? She's got a book?" And I was like, "Yeah." Because when she passed away that day, Joel Altman was the one who sent it to a group I was in, and we had access. I read the entire book, and it was so elaborate and detailed. People don't realize this, but Virginia was recruited from Mar-a-Lago. People don't know that. Ghislaine was recruiting, and I think that's probably why they got kicked out after he got busted and went to jail in 2005, because it was so toxic and it was such a bad look for everybody involved that Trump couldn't be seen with Epstein at Mar-a-Lago, because everybody would be talking about it, right? Like people, it was such a big deal in Florida because he had got busted. There was, number one, she had to tell, she had everything. She had the receipts, the dates, the times, the travel logs. Her passport was with Epstein from the time she was 15 until she was basically, till she was 19. There was 22 girls, 22 victims. There was actually 17 victims that had already testified. And there was 5 more that they didn't even bother to interview. This is how low of a priority this was. The district attorney of Florida there's only 2 people in the world that have the power to tell him to stand down. That is the president of the United States, and that's the actual attorney general, like Pam Bondi. He was told to stand down. So then he punts it and he gets it to a grand jury. Let me remind you, there are 2 of his victims of the 17 were under the age of 10. They were 8, we believe. 8-year-old girls Epstein was raping. Okay. Then he goes and gets a grand jury. The grand jury comes back and finds him not guilty. Like they say, you could get a district attorney to indict a ham sandwich.
Right.
I think that's the saying, because you get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich because they're so corrupt. And like the process of these grand juries it's a joke. It's literally a joke. So they were going to let him walk. And the sheriff was like, "Oh, hell no." He raised bloody hell. And he's like, "Absolutely not." So they come up with the idea of, to give him this slap on the wrist, they give him acquiring a prostitute who was 18, and then another count of acquiring a prostitute under the age of 18 or under the age of 14 or something like that. It was silly. He gets 2 years. During his first time in jail, the judge cuts him, or the sheriff lets him get work release. So he spends 13 months on work release, where he's going home and raping minor children and then coming back to prison for being a pedophile. Like, let that sink in. And then, so that was in 2009 when he got sentenced. Pam Bondi takes office in 2011. So you mean to tell me that the most prolific serial rapist is either, I don't know if he was actually, I wonder when he got finished with work release. I wonder when he finished his sentence, if it was in 2009 and he goes out, or if it was 2000. I think he went in 2009. That's when he would have came out in Bondi's term.
Yeah, he would have came out in Bondi's term in 2011. And that's when they had that big raid at his house, right? In 2011.
No. The raid was in 5.
Oh, the raid.
Pam Bondi leaves office in 2019. His place is literally raided months after she leaves office. So he basically gets out at the beginning of her term, and he gets arrested like months after her term finished. And you mean to tell me that this district attorney, who was told to stand down, and the amount of additional reports and additional women and additional evidence and testimony, that's what I think Pam Bondi's covering up. I think her office was taking reports and taking leads and taking investigations, and she was burying the evidence her entire time as attorney general, because that's the only thing that makes sense. This man walked free in her state, and people were reporting him in 1996 all the way to 2003, from 96 to 2005 when they arrested him. So over that entire period of time, 96 to 2005, 11 years, people were reporting. And you mean to tell me that 5 of the girls they didn't even interview? So you mean to tell me that none of them were back in the mix? None of them were sexually assaulted? You mean to tell me that out of the first, 100 girls, 22 of them testified? And you mean to tell me that over the next 9 years, there wasn't one witness that came forward in the state of Florida? BS. I call absolute BS. He walked those streets free. The man who kidnapped the Virginia before she met Epstein. So her crazy story, her parents basically kicked her out. She was 13 and she was sitting on the curb, and somebody showed up and offered her a new dress and to take her out shopping. And this guy took her out shopping, bought her a new dress, bought her clothes, took her out to dinner. And this is an older man. Then they get back to their house and there's like 3 or 4 other girls there. And this is what, what the girls, what he did to these girls. They were basically a sex slave. He never let her out of his sight. He went everywhere with her. She was in his Corvette. He would have her riding around at 13 in Florida in his Corvette, showing him off to his friends without her shirt on.
Oh, wow.
That's how ballsy this Ron guy was. And then she ended up being able to like sneak into a den. Like the girls would be busy. He'd fall asleep having drinks. She was able to sneak into a den and call her ex-boyfriend, her best friend from school. Right. And then she's 13. She calls this guy that she used to like hang out with, be best friends. It's the only person that she could trust and talk to. And she's talked to him for like 20 minutes and told him the story, but like, I'm going to run away when I get time. And he's like, he didn't believe her. So like 3 days later, 5 days later, Ron shows up. He's like, get your shit. He's pissed off and he's throwing shit around and he's screaming at the girls and they're packing all their stuff. And then he takes them and he's like, we're coming. You talk to somebody, you're going to get me sent to prison, blah, 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 blah. And he heads out into the country and goes out into like some country farmhouse in Florida and had the girls out there. And I think they were out there for, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks or a night or 2 nights before all of a sudden it's like, she's completely naked and cops, FBI busted, FBI, arms in the air. And they save her. She's 15 at this time. So she has to go back home to her. When she goes to jail, they have to call her parents and say, hey, this is what happened to your daughter. And you have to tell your dad what happened. So she was like recounting and telling him. It got to the point where her dad's like, I fully understand. I just can't hear anymore. Let's just stop. And then and she's like, well, listen, if you send me to that home again, I'm gone. You'll never see me again. You'll never see your little girl again. And God only knows what I'm going to get into. Just what I came from. Let me talk to your mom. But for the first, at least this week, I need you to go to that home. And then after 7 days, I promise I'll have you out of there and I'm going to have a home for you to go to, a safe home to go to. And at 7 days, her dad wasn't there and they needed to take her to get like a cavity or a filling or something like that. And first chance she got out to get out, she ran. And the guy that was with her she's like, I've done this so many times and escaped these places. I just knew exactly what to do. And I got the shot and I was gone. Then she gets, she runs and then she calls her dad on the payphone. She says, hey dad, I gotta tell you something. Basically F off. I'm out. I'm free. And you're never going to see your daughter again. And he's like, no. I promise you, I can show you the messages. I had you a house. I was getting you. It was another 2 days. I just need you to stay there. And she goes, either you come home and pick me up and we're going to have a sit down with mom. Cause I'm going to look her in the face and tell her what happened to me. And then that she'll never see me again. Or I'm going to run. You'll never see me again. If I can come talk to mom, I'm staying in the house for those 2 days. So he came back and she said that she walked in and sat down at the table. And the first thing her mom did was slap her in the face. And she's like, I just looked at her with this cold stare that I like a straight in hell right in the deer in headlights, didn't even blink. And mom started crying. They gave her a hug. They talked it out and they had like their little mom and daughter powwow and the mom let her stay there. So then she stayed there. Her dad got her a job at Mar-a-Lago. She was working at Mar-a-Lago. First month on the job, in comes Ghislaine. She goes something about, I always want to be a massage therapist. So Ghislaine goes, oh, that's crazy. I have a billionaire friend who he likes getting massages a lot and he'd like to hire you and train you. And I can train you. I'm a professional massage therapist. So she's like, all right, let me talk to my dad. So the dad was driving her to Epstein's house. And that's the craziest part about the story and why I say that there's so many witnesses, because Epstein wasn't killing his victims.
Yeah, a lot of them he wasn't. He had people bringing them to him. The
girls, she would go out. So when he would take her to New York, he'd be like, oh, here's $1,000, $1,500, go shopping, get a new dress. You need a black dress. You need your hair done like this. We're going to do out this. And she would go out. When she was out, it was her job to get girls because she was getting paid $200 per massage from Epstein. And then if she brought back a girl, she was getting $400. So these girls were all incentivized to go out and basically collect more victims for him and bring them back. But then he also had another guy that he was actually getting victims from. This guy was a Juan guy, and this was the guy who would come from overseas, and he would bring in the foreign girls, the younger ones. You know, these are the ones that are 8. You know, gosh damn it, man, do I hate that gosh damn feature?
Yeah.
So annoying. I don't know why it does that. I don't know how to turn that off.
What is that? What
I don't know. It's
program
like
or whatever?
camera effects. I need to turn that
Oh,
off.
is it? Oh shit. No, I don't.
It's on Mac. Like I can do a bunch of different.
Oh, Mac. Okay, I don't.
Yeah, I
have
can
a
do a
Mac.
bunch of different gestures,
Okay.
and I don't know how to change that. But yeah, that's basically it, man. He's sick, dude, and this guy was bringing him underage girls, and he had a way to get girls out of these countries, and you go right to their parents. I'm like, listen, I can pay your daughter. She's going to make this amount of money. She's going to be a nanny. She's going to be doing this, or she's going to be we'll pay you $5,000 for your daughter to come over and be, she's going to be a helper, and she's going to be a date. She's going to date guys and, whatever, give massages. And the mom's like, okay. And they would buy the daughter for $5,000 or whatever it was. They would get it at the passport. And then this guy had some connections because it's harder to get these foreigners American visas, right? It's not something that you can easily do. There's a lot of work, a lot of time that goes into it. So he must have known somebody that he could pay off, or Epstein must have had somebody high up that was able to approve visas for these
in
kids.
the State Department. Yeah.
So who Epstein was running one of the most elaborate child trafficking networks that the world has ever seen. And you've busted 2 people involved in it. Things like this don't happen by themselves. Mother effer, dude.
That's a good balloon, though. I mean, yeah, only 2. And then you have Bondi, you have Cash, and they're on this stall tactic right now. I think where we have to go through the evidence. Well, the trials have been had already. The trials have. I mean, what more evidence? And a lot of the underage people that you talk about to make sure that their information isn't put out. That's already been redacted. So who are you trying to hide? Who are you? Trying to cover for whose information you really don't want to get out, because a lot of this should be very, very easy at this point because it's already there. And like you say, you got her book. Somebody still has her book. I'm sure it has a lot of names in that book as well.
100%. Like you think about, it's impossible that victims weren't coming forward, and Bondi would have been the attorney general in the state of Florida. She would have been the person to override or dismiss those cases. It's impossible to think that they would have all came in unless Epstein had a person that was the sheriff at a specific department. And he assumingly that those girls, because they were from all over the country and all over the states and all over different places and towns and cities. So like if they went to report it, they most likely wouldn't go and report it in the police station or department that's in the same town as Epstein living, his mansion, right? You would go at least, even like the most brain dead girl would be like, yeah, I would assume that this guy, like knowing how powerful he is and your effing president, that he's got really high people in really high places and that he's protected. So you'd at the very least be going to a police department by your house, or like where you're from.
Right.
I would go way out of my way to find, and think about that. These girls grew up and they probably had friends in high school that became cops. There had to have been somebody that they told that it's just impossible to think that he raped that many girls and that nobody ever.
And nobody knows. Nobody knows. No names. Nothing. I know my Joe Olsen, he's been on my show a little bit. He just put something in the chat. He said Ivana and Ghislaine were BFFs. They actually pimped together in NYC and Miami for a decade.
Give me one second. Let me grab a water really quick. I'll be right back.
Okay, go for it. Okay, cool. Hey man, so we're dropping some bombs. Ryan's dropping bombs in here tonight, man. It's just crazy. TBB, we're over there on Getter and on Rumble. I see y'all on Rumble, and I know my second guest. Let me see who.
There we go. So yeah, Ivana. I haven't got into that right.
Hey Mark, I get with you in a minute, Mark. As soon as I finish up here, my 9 o'clock just popped in. That's okay.
Oh no, go ahead. You're good, man.
No, he's early. He's early, but okay, cool.
Yeah. No, we can keep going. We go for another 5 minutes if you want. I got 5.
Yeah, man. I mean, so I tell you what, do the while these last 5 minutes, tell everybody where they can see your new documentary there's released. Tell everybody where they can follow you, see you, and see this great stuff that you put out.
Yeah, so I got my documentary is coming out. It's going to be called The Great El Salvadorian Comeback. It'll be pinned to my Twitter profile tomorrow morning at about 8 or 9 a.m. It's called The Great El Salvadorian Comeback, God, Bukele, and Bitcoin. I'm at Ryan Matta Media over on X. I'll be kicking off a new YouTube channel at Ryan Matta Media, and that's going to be coming out in probably like a 2 or 3 weeks. So we're traveling across the world with Oscar Blue, going to the most dangerous cities and countries all over the world and bringing you the rawest. Like the story we're about to break in like 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, man, it's like a $15 billion fraud. One of the largest NGOs that was involved with moving a vast majority of these children, trafficking them from all these different countries all over the world. They're about to get exposed in about 2 weeks. It's going to be a massive story. So We're going to be putting all this out in the behind the scenes vlog style videos over on YouTube. Those ones will be more YouTube appropriate, but if you like the watching the adventure kind of stuff and just like the behind the scenes and how we make films and do our reports and investigations, you're going to get a really first-hand seat. So it'll be PG-13, rated R a little bit, if you will, but we're going to try to creep the graphic stuff for X, and that stuff will be over there as well. So
and that's Ryan's right now. That's Ryan's X over there. If you want to check it out, like I said, at Ryan Matta Media.
And you can also get all my films too. And if you scroll down a little bit and go to the highlight tab there on X and click the highlight, yep, right there in the middle. Scroll down.
No, scroll down some more.
Highlights.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Boom.
Yeah, see the highlights there. That's where all my free films are. So I put out all my documentaries for free. There's a Regime Change that just launched last week, and a ton of great films that you guys can see there. And hopefully, you guys find something you like and you learn a little bit.
Okay, I can see a little Louis Farrakhan in there, man. You actually, was that an interview? Did you interview Louis Farrakhan?
Oh no, he was just in the documentary, and because he was exposing how our United States government that long ago was involved in these regime change and toppling governments, and I mean even Malcolm X was onto it, right? Like
yeah, they were all I mean, and that's why I say and that's why they tried to discredit Minister Louis Farrakhan all of these years. They take the excerpts. You talk about the Jews. I mean, he was really the first one to start talking about the Jews, right?
Was.
And everything, and
Henry Ford was the first.
Henry Ford.
Yep. Wow. Anonymously, though, Henry Ford wrote the International Jew. That's how the JQ question came about, right? Like once you start asking the Jewish question, you realize you have the Jewish problem, and here we are. Like everybody's waking up. We're all seeing what our founding fathers and the great people way before us, the legends that were actually heroes of their time, the Henry Fords, the Malcolm X's, man, everything they said was true. And here we are going, wow. And, that's why if I got one more minute, let me show Nostr. So Nostr is the social media platform that is, it's not a platform, I should say. So Nostr is the protocol, right? It is like Bitcoin. Remember Napster when we would download music illegally and videos illegally? You're downloading from a torrent, right? Which it means everybody has a copy of that program on their computer. When you go offline, you take it with you. But when you come back online, it automatically syncs up and gives you the most updated version of the protocol. And then while you're online, anybody that comes online can get access to this giant database. And it's all of our computers linked together. We create this giant protocol, just like Bitcoin miners are. So I'm running my own Nostr node. So there's all these people like me running all of our nodes. And it puts one big server together. So instead of having a billionaire that can deplatform you or kick you off, we've created this protocol, and people like myself volunteer to run storage space that donates to the entire network. And we have this one giant server. So when you get on Nostr, you need to create a profile through an app, right? So there are applications built on top of Nostr, just like there's things built on top of Bitcoin, like the Lightning Network, right? You then have this app that it turns your Nostr feed into a Twitter-like experience. And where is my Nostr feed stored at? My Nostr feed is stored at on my software, on my computer, so nobody can ever deplatform me. And that's the power. So when people talk about the invention of Bitcoin, right? It took 15 years for people to realize that Bitcoin is not just a coin. It's not just cryptocurrency. It's a protocol, and it's going to change the world. Nostr just came out 2 years ago. So you're literally at the very foundation of a social media platform. The final one will never need to go to any other social media platform because they can never deplatform and they can't silence you. And what we see happening right now is that the amount of people, the users, it just hit 200,000. And when we had the TikTok, our government was going to ban TikTok, remember, because it was a Chinese app and the Chinese was access to our spyware. Well, then everybody that one day went out and downloaded the new app called Red Note, which is like this crappier version of the Chinese TikTok. It's a Chinese program, an app, and we all downloaded it to give them our data just to say a big middle F you. If 150 million people switched over to Nostr today, it would be Twitter would collapse. Everybody would collapse because you're not on a platform where you're actually monetized. So like I just got people to sign up today and they're already making Bitcoin, because the second you create your account, you have a Bitcoin wallet and you can earn Bitcoin. So people like myself have Bitcoin. We see a post we like, we can retweet it, we can share it, we can comment, we can do all the other stuff, but we can also zap it. I might give you like maybe like a penny, right? I might send you like 52 Satoshis or something so small, but if you get 1 million views on a tweet and every one of them gives you a penny, that's 1,000.
And you're not shadow banned like you're on Twitter, freaking,
timeline is chronological. So in 2015 to 18, Instagram used to have a chronological timeline. And that's when girls became the Instagram models, because you could go, my ex took her account from 10,000 to 675,000 in a year, just being a pretty girl in the bikini. So what happens on these platforms when you have a chronological timeline, everybody you follow. So if you're somebody that's active like us, that's constantly on social media posting 10 times a day, every time somebody opens their app, there's a higher chance that your content's going to be right at the top of their feed. And then if they share it, then it puts it on top of the next person's feed. So it like re-chronological your content every time somebody retweets it. And what you do is you get tweets that go insane mega viral. So we just need to get the people over there.
So how do you
at
get
Ryan.
Noster? How do people get
Go
there?
to primal.net. Primal.net is the interface where you're going to create your wallet. You're going to create your Noster profile, right? And what it's going to do, people need to pay attention because it's going to give you 12 words. Those 12 words are basically your master password. They're going to be in chronological order. You need to write them down. You should actually engrave them in metal and put them in a safe. So if your house ever burns down, the paper doesn't burn. Because if you break your phone, in order to regain access to your profile, you need to put in those 12 words. Once you put in those 12 words, they're actually saved on a super encrypted part of your device, which is the only people that could get into that would be if they got your phone and like they wanted to deploy like mega resources. Like I'm talking like CIA, like super high level to unencrypt this chip and get those keys. So it's literally impossible for the government to ever actually shut down your profile. So that being said, yeah, man, it's such a great platform and it's literally the future. Primal.net over on YouTube.
Primal.net.
Mm-hmm.
Over on YouTube, primal.net. I'm gonna have to check it out, man.
Yeah, search on YouTube, search BTC Sessions Noster. And this guy does the best walkthrough on how to set it up and how it all works. It's 45 minutes, put it on 2x speed. He talks a little slow, but it's well worth the watch.
BTT Sessions.
BTC, like Bitcoin, BTC Sessions.
BTC Sessions.
Yes, sir.
Noster. Yeah, man, I'm checking it out, man. Cool. Hey, brother, thank you for. Sorry, Oscar didn't come on. We'll get him next time, man. Hopefully he's safe. To Oscar, I wish him well, and hopefully he's safe. We'll catch him next time, man. And we appreciate you coming to hang out, brother. You know you're always welcome back in Alliance Den anytime, man.
Thank you for your service, sir. God bless you, man.
Absolutely, man. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
I appreciate you. Later.
All right, thank you. Late. All right, we're gonna just go ahead and move right into this. Be smart, pay zero taxes, use the buy, borrow, dive strategy to get rich and stay rich by Mark J. Kwan. We had Mark on the show, I don't know, a couple months ago, maybe a month and a half ago. And so I said that we're going to have him back because I said, I'm going to try it out. All right. I'm going to go and I'm going to get this account, this M1 account. I'm going to have my brokerage account and I'm going to put some money in it and enough money to push this borrow button and see what happens. Right. and guess what? It works. It works just like you advertise. Welcome back to the show, Mark.
Man, thanks for having me. I feel like I'm going to get on good with Ryan too, because that guy's a Bitcoin guy. I'm a Bitcoin guy. I'm off to Bitcoin 2024 tomorrow. 2025, sorry. So.
Oh yeah. I remember you telling me you're going to that conference.
Yeah.
But yeah. He's a big Bitcoin guy, man. So,
like
I said, welcome back. I tell you what, introduce yourself just for people who didn't see the show prior to.
Go ahead. Mark Kwan, officially high school and college dropout, Canadian, came to the United States 25 years ago. No green card. I did go to college, university, or college for a bit for finance and business, all that stuff. Dropped out of there. I ended up getting to financial services. Spent 15 years as an investment advisor, financial advisor. I used to be the financial advisor for CPAs. When I left in 2018, I was like, this is ridiculous. This whole thing is kind of rigged a little bit. And I wrote 4 books. So this is my 4th book, Be Smart, Pay Zero Taxes. Currently the #1 tax book for months. We're going on like 2 months, #1 tax book in the country. So it's disruptive.
Oh, very cool. And I'm sure people probably went out and bought it right before April 15th because they know our government is stealing our money, giving it to foreign countries, giving it to NGOs, doing some crazy, wild stuff in other countries with our money. And so, I would love to keep all of my tax dollars and not send any to the government. And
all right, I can help you with that.
Way. Okay, so what does borrow, buy, and die mean?
Buy, borrow, die. Okay, means it's not a new strategy. It actually goes back to the Great Depression. Okay, we tell a story in this book, Great Depression. There was a banker that used it. 1990s, there was a study done at the University of Southern California. Got an Edward McCaffrey, he's a tax law professor, and he wanted to simplify how billionaires don't pay taxes. He said, buy, borrow, die, right? You buy assets, You never sell them, you'll never pay taxes. When you borrow from them, you don't have to work for it. So that is essentially new money. When you borrow money, you don't have to pay taxes on it. If you buy another asset, now you own two assets. As the assets appreciate, you can borrow from those to buy another one. Eventually, you can have 3, 4, 5, 10, 50 different assets, and you never pay taxes. When you die, you get a stepped up basis, and you pass all the assets to your family with no taxes. So you basically never pay taxes. You didn't have to work for the money. You never sold, so you never triggered the taxes. And when you die, there's no taxes, and you teach that to your kids.
Okay, and so can you borrow money to use it for other things? Because people, when they think about borrow, yeah, you borrow it and pay and buy more assets. Because, like I said, I'm a witness. I did it. It
Yeah.
worked. You put
Yeah.
in money, and it's like $2,500. I mean, you can actually open an account with $100. Once
Yeah.
you reach the 2,500 threshold or whatever, then this margin button pops up, and you can
Yeah.
borrow and buy more assets. And then once it comes again around again, you borrow, buy more assets, and
Yep.
and so people want to be like, well, I want to borrow it and take a trip. How can I do that?
I'll go to Bitcoin. I can just press the borrow button. There's already a borrow button. I could send $3,000 to my checking account or $4,000, whatever, trust, flights, everything. I just send it to my. I didn't have to spend my time. I didn't work for it. It wasn't taxed. I go to Bitcoin 2025. I didn't have to work for the money. That's a tax deduction to me as a business owner. The government actually owes me money, so I get to go to Bitcoin 2025, and the government pays for it.
There it is. I mean, and that's like, I guess any business tax write off, and they have to pay you back that money that's used for your business. And what about real estate?
You can do this in real estate. You can buy Bitcoin with it. You could buy gold and precious metals. You can donate to your church if you want. Right? That's a double tax deduction then, right? So I always tell people, look, you're going to tithe every month. Don't do it with your money. Invest, press the borrow button. You want to tithe $1,000 a month? Send a loan to your church. That's a tax deduction. The government owes you money. You put it back in your investment account. That's money that would have gone to the church. It's now in your investment account, but the same amount of money still went to the church. Now the government owes you money, and you take that back, throw it back in your investment account. Keep the cycle of buy, borrow, die forever. Never invest into something if you can't borrow from it.
There it is. That's the big thing. Never say that one more time, Mark.
Never invest into an asset unless you can borrow from it. So I have, I spent 4 years on this now. I've taught over 500 ordinary Americans this. And then it was Newsmax who reached out to me early last year and asked me if I could write this book to prove that ordinary Americans can use the buy, borrow, die strategy. I said yes. Spent 10 months, night and day. My team was on it. We created the book. And it's you never want to invest into something unless you can take a loan. I call it dead money. If you invest into something and you can't borrow from it, it's dead. You killed the asset. You need to invest into this asset. As it grows, borrow from that asset to buy that asset. As those grow, borrow from those to buy another one. As those assets grow, borrow from those to buy another one, and just keep doing that because you'll never pay taxes. Yeah,
but I mean, so like a house, let's say to make it simple for people in a house, you buy a house, you get equity in the house, borrow the equity on your house, buy another house or buy another type of asset, dump it into your, your brokerage account, and just keep making sure you're able to do that, right?
Yeah, but it's a little bit deeper. People realize when they buy a house, the house that I'm in, I put 3% down, right? So I put 3% down. I had to work for that money. I had to pay taxes on that money. Well, I didn't, but usually you have to pay taxes on it. Well, where did the 97% come? The house that I'm sitting in, where did the 97% come from? It was money created at a computer by a bank. They just plugged it into the computer and created the money. I took that money essentially and bought the home with it. Where did the money come from?
Right. Thin air on something called.
So I did buy, borrow, die.
The mortgage.
Yeah. So I did 3%. I borrowed the rest. So I did buy, borrow. I mutually borrowed 97% of the money. I just borrowed it. I didn't work for it. I didn't pay taxes on it. I didn't have to fight inflation to earn it. In fact, I fought inflation because buying real estate fights inflation. So see, when you buy a home with debt, which I don't want to put anything down on real estate. I'll buy everything with none of my money. I'm betting down on the US dollar and up on the real estate. That's the most important thing you understand. You're betting down on the dollar that prints it like toilet paper and up on the real estate. See, rich people understand that. It's if you buy gold, you're betting down on the dollar and up on the gold. When you buy Bitcoin, you're betting down. When you buy it with debt, essentially, because you're just creating fake money, fiat currency, you're betting down on the currency, up on Bitcoin. You could buy toilet paper, right? You could borrow money, buy toilet paper. You're betting down on the dollar and up on the toilet paper. That'd be a good investment because toilet paper actually goes up in value. The dollar goes down in value. Same thing as apply. It's just, you have to realize that debt isn't debt. It's debt if you spend it on Vegas. You go to something that doesn't make you money, right? But if you create debt to create another asset that pays you income or can wipe out taxes, it's not debt. It's zero ones in a computer that give me huge tax deductions. I can pay a little bit in interest, but I get a massive tax deduction. I'll do that over and over and over. I'm not trying to get out of debt. I'm trying to get more into debt.
And a lot of people can't wrap their head around that. I mean, they can't be like, I want to pay off everything. I don't want to be in any debt.
Yeah,
right?
but
That's the goal. I don't want to be in any debt.
That's just indoctrination. That's it. That's it. You went to school. You were taught by banks. All the universities are funded by banks. They're all funded by pharmaceutical companies. Everything. See, if you just wiped your memory right now and you were 18 years old and you were born in a billionaire family, they just teach you this. You wouldn't have any fixed ideas. You'd be 18 years old. All right, buy assets, borrow, buy another one. You'd have no hesitation here. The only reason people doubt it, indoctrination. That's it. You live in the matrix. I exited the matrix. That's it.
Yeah, I live outside, been outside the matrix for a long time.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I know.
and you look at, yeah, exactly. And you look at it and I mean, every bank is in debt. I mean, the entire country is in debt because, most of the people that are high up here, they stole the money and bought assets with that money, and caused all the other normal people to believe that they're in debt, that we actually owe that money back, and we actually don't,
Yeah, it's so funny, right? Buy, borrow, die has been around since the Great Depression. It came from the University of Southern California, but I met a lot of people that went to university at USC. They never heard of it. Pepperdine, Yale, Harvard, they never heard of it. How come the best strategy that all the billionaires use aren't taught at any of them, even the most exclusive universities, right? It's where's the information from the universities come from?
right?
Might want to question that.
Is that they don't want to share their ideas. They don't want to share why they're billionaires, right?
Right. Yeah. And by the way, I was in the matrix. I kind of was always out of the matrix my whole life. I kind of questioned everything, and then I became a financial advisor, and they started sucking me into the matrix. Right.
So you went deep. You went deep inside,
deep in the matrix, and I saw the cracks everywhere. I'm like, man, all these financial advisors, they're all struggling. They're all going to work until they die, and the CPAs were like worrying at their desk, going, "Am I gonna work until they die? I'm gonna die at their desk." And like the CPAs and the financial advisors, they're all worried they're gonna die. They're gonna die at their desk. I'm like, this is weird, man. This is not financial advising. So 2018, I left. I just gave up a large amount of income. I wrote Top 10 Ways to Avoid Taxes. That my second book, and I started a financial consulting company that helped rich people avoid taxes. And we used to consulting in Malibu and La Jolla real estate, La Jolla, and Beverly Hills. And then we had this company, it was like cranking, right? And I was all in-person seminars, and then coronavirus happened, and I was like, oh man, there goes the second company gone. It was just disappeared. So, but that was good. It was worth it. So
yeah. Oh yeah, you doing well. So what's the name of your company now? Tell people how they can find you and get in contact with you if they want more information on what you're teaching these accountants and financial advisors.
Yeah, it's
and people like myself.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, we teach everybody. I do a lot of consulting for like rich people on how to avoid taxes, but man, I've been like meeting with people who like, I got to put $100, and I'm like, all right, just do it, rock and roll. We always start people with $100. The company's called The Perfect Portfolio, so theperfectportfolio.com. We have tons of content there. Again, people think I'm supposed to get out of debt. No, that's what they want. So I would say, look, if you believe you're supposed to go to school, get a job, pay your taxes, save money, get good credit, and fund a retirement account and pay your house off quick, that's it. You've been indoctrinated. You've been funded. You've been educated by big government and banksters, right? That's what they want. That's it.
Right.
The billionaires are top of the opposite. The guys who own the banks, they're teaching their kids buy, borrow, die. So yeah, theperfectportfolio.com.
There it is, man. Wow, thank you. There's the book again. Let me see if I can bring that book up again. I see it in the background back there. If you guys see it back there, but
Oh,
it's
that way, yeah.
definitely
Oh, that way, yeah.
is that way? Yeah. So it's be smart, pay zero taxes, use a buy, borrow, die strategy to get rich and stable. And it's a great book. I read the book. Have deep dove or deep dived into the book, and I read it every day. I go back and I read it again and read it again because every time I do something on the website on M1 and okay, explain that website to people too. What happens when they go and open up a brokerage account at M1?
Okay, first of all, go to our YouTube channel, the Perfect Profile YouTube channel.
Okay, here you
Watch a video guy named Brian Barnes. Brian Barnes is the founder of M1 Finance, right? I interviewed the guy. He was 8 years old. He's being taught it buying and borrowing. So he was 8 years old. He spent, he grew up as an investor, made a ton of money, and then he created this platform. It works incredibly well for buy, borrow, ride. It's called M1 Finance. There's investment. You can buy any type of ETF or stock in there, and it puts in a little kind of I would say algorithm, but it kind of helps you manage the investments. You can just grow them and you just never sell them. There's a borrow button. You can borrow money and you send it to your bank account, or you could go buy something with it. You could tithe to your church, or you could borrow and then buy more investments.
Right.
And I mean, I don't want to go too deep dive, but there's a lot of exchange traded funds. It's like an investment it's almost like a stock, but it has lots of investments inside of it. You can generate big income streams for yourself. So I generate over $5,000 a month in dividend income doing nothing. That's just in my account that I show my students, and I'll pay about $400 a month in interest. So I'm making $5,000, paying $400 in interest. So people think that's impossible, but again, you just know what Wall Street wants you to know. It's just, they don't want you to know how to get out of debt and retire early and pay no taxes. Come on, give me a break. You kidding me? Really? So you think Wall Street and big government built the financial service industry to help you retire and get rich and not pay taxes? Okay. So
yeah, exactly. They want you to pay taxes so they can continue to steal the money and continue to do whatever they want to do with it. And
taxation is theft.
Taxation, very much so theft, and property taxes even more than regular.
Oh yeah, lifelong taxes.
Because because you actually think you own something, you really don't, because you have to rent it back, which absolutely makes zero sense to me. So
yes. I think DeSantis is leading the charge on that one. No tax, no property tax on your house.
Did they pass that yet down in Florida?
I don't know. I know
they were talking about it, and that would be a good thing, because that would be a catalyst all over. Because I own 27 acres of land that my dad paid for years ago, and I'm the custodian of it, and so it's our family land. But I got to pay $900 in taxes on it every year. I'm like, for what? You don't upkeep the land. You don't do anything on the land. I just have to pay this to the state just to say I own that. It's total garbage, man. In the state of Alabama. So
taxation is theft, and there's no such thing as government funded. It's basically big government stealing from the rest of us. And they don't. Wait. So let's rewind here. There's the direct taxation. That's theft, right? They just steal from us whenever they want, right? There's hundreds of levels of taxation, right? When you go buy a TV and you pay state and federal, you think you're just paying that? No. There's like 45 other taxes along the way that when you swipe your credit card, you're paying all those. It's just added on to you at the end. And then when they don't want to steal from us directly, they do raise the debt ceiling, or fractional reserve banking, or quantum. They just call it raising the debt ceiling. Yeah. They print money and
quantitative easing.
Quantitative easing, right? Like WTF is quantitative easing, right? No, it's just they print money and they steal from us when we're sleeping. But then they manipulate they move food and energy from the inflation rate to hide the inflation from us, right? To lie to us. And then our Social Security wasn't supposed to be taxed. And then they said, oh, we'll just tax that when you take the distribution from your 401k. So the 401k triggers the taxes on your Social Security, which was essentially triple taxation. And then your Social Security is adjusted to the fake inflation rate. So they're stealing from you again. How many times did they steal from you there?
Yeah, you can't even keep track. You can't even keep track. What, 5 times?
I think it's like 18 times. It's all hidden, right?
It's all hidden.
Yeah, they're like, oh, state and federal. Oh, no. It's like 85 other taxes that little ones you can't see that are stealing from you every
Yeah, the
single day.
excise tax, the FCC tax. I mean, you
Oh,
know, you
yeah.
look. I mean, just on your cell phone bill. You look at your cell phone bill.
Yep.
You got like 10 taxes on your cell phone bill, man. Like, why am I paying all this? You know, it's just insane, man. Yeah, we just
Yeah.
keep getting robbed and
Yep.
raped, man. It's just unbelievable. Wow, man.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so appreciate the perfectportfolio.com. Go there and
Yep.
check it out. And Burns was his name, right? To watch the video.
Oh, Brian Barnes. Go to my
Brian
YouTube
Barnes.
channel, The Perfect Portfolio.
Brian
Watch
Barnes.
Brian Barnes, M1 Finance. Fascinating video. 8 years old. His parents make tons of money. They teach him investing at 8 years old, like from high-powered executives. He learns how buying and borrowing it from like 8, 9, 10 years old. He learns how to build wealth. He could have been some high-end financial advisor managing billions of dollars, but his friend who started Snapchat, he was a billionaire, was like, man, you got to do something bigger, like go all in, right? So he starts this platform, M1 Finance, where he doesn't say it, but it kind of is. It's built for buying and borrowing. It's buying, it's
Yeah,
the
right.
investment algorithm manages it, and then you can borrow money, super low interest rates. But you have to realize that when you're borrowing money, you have to ask 3 questions. Did I have to spend my time to earn the money? No. So you bought your time. Did you have to pay taxes? No, you didn't. Did you have to fight inflation? No, you fought inflation. Inflation is the printing of money. You create new money when you borrow money. If you're creating new money that's not taxed, you're fighting inflation. You're winning the game. You're avoiding having to work hard and spend your time. You're avoiding taxation, and you're fighting inflation with inflation. So if you borrow and buy gold and precious metals or Bitcoin or real estate, again, you're betting down on the fiat, the fake money, and you're betting up on the hard asset, right? So that's the key. That's what Bitcoin people understand. That's what, that's the key. It's whatever has limited supply goes up in value. Whatever has unlimited supply goes down in value. Exactly.
Yeah, and Bitcoin hit what 111 last week.
It was
I think,
111.
for a moment.
Yeah, but that's it. So here's the thing with Bitcoin, right? If you had an asset that's already at 111,000 and 95% of it is in existence today, and there's only 5% left, that the entire world, governments and corporations and states, the entire world has to share the remaining 5% of the Bitcoin that will only be created over the next 100 years. That's
Yeah.
the most valuable asset in the world.
Absolutely.
Eventually, my Bitcoin play is between now and 2038. How much can I accumulate between 2038? I think by 2038 it'll be so constricted supply. See, there's a lot of billionaires in the world. If the billionaires just had a meeting and said, let's buy all the Bitcoin, that's it. It'd be $1 million a coin tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time. Corporations, billionaires, they just get together, or banks, corporations, BlackRock. BlackRock's already buying like crazy.
Vanguard, I'm sure everybody,
Vanguard, BlackRock, billionaires. I mean, they do the same thing with real estate. They just restrict the supply. They do the same thing with commodities. They restrict the supply. You don't think they're going to do the same thing with Bitcoin? So it's just the people that understand that are going to win. The people that are funding their retirement accounts, they're in trouble.
They're in trouble. Wow,
Yeah,
there it is, man. So Mark Quan, guys and ladies, is watching the show. So go check him out, theperfectportfolio.com. Mark, thank you for coming back, man, in Lions Den for a few minutes, man. And like I said, I had to have you back and and Roger up. It works. It definitely works. I am a buy, borrow, die user now at M1. So definitely. So go check out that video. And like I say, it only costs $100 to start your account. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't cost it. That's your $100.
Investment. That's your $100.
That's your 100 being invested, by the way. You could put $20 in Nvidia, $20 in, I don't know, Broadcom, $20 in Tesla, $20 in a synthetic covered call, and $20 into Bitcoin. Right? You can just invest it in whatever you want. And that's it. Just keep investing it. The key is always buy, never stop buying, never sell it. Borrow from it to fund other assets, and when you die, it all passes to your family tax-free. That's buy, borrow, die.
Boom, there it is. Hey, I have to ask you one more time.
I can't have a mic. Just drop the mic. I gotta get a mic. I just drop it right now.
Yeah, you get a mic. Hey, that's the mic drop right there, man.
Right there.
That's the mic drop. But I don't have a mic drop, but you're getting applause, man, somewhere in here. There you go. You're getting applause. You get the mic drop. But I gotta ask offline. I'm gonna ask you about that. what I have that has all
Yeah.
the Bitcoin in it.
Yep.
So yeah, man, we'll talk, man.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna text you offline. I'm gonna
Yeah,
text
for
you
sure.
offline so I can ask, which one of these holdings of mine has the Bitcoin in it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know
for
I
sure.
have it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Mark. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
brother. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one. Bye.
Peace. Wow, man. So you guys got to check it out. Literally, it works, man. I wouldn't lie to you. And yeah, me and my wife actually both. We actually have two accounts, separate accounts to see. We're actually playing a game, because we hold different, equities in there, different stocks in these funded portfolios or whatever. So trying to see who's going to come out on top at the end of the year. But definitely we have to do that. So sorry, Oscar wasn't able to join us tonight. But hey, and it's all about being safe. It's all about being safe. So the big thing right now that is this Jake Tapper thing, right? With the book that's coming out on Biden and how everyone is running away from Joe Biden and the Biden family is pissed. But I'm gonna play a couple of clips here. And I'm gonna play it probably the entirety of this Megyn Kelly clip because Megyn Kelly destroyed Jake Tapper. But I'm gonna play a clip first, and Jake Tapper, hey, he's grifting. You know what I mean? He's good. Jake Tapper and these guys. He was one of the problems. All these MSN, all these people that are now backtracking, trying to cover their ass, like Jake Tapper, and all these mainstream medias. The ladies on the View who's criticizing, Jake Tapper. All of them, were the problem. They all knew that Joe Biden was sick. They all knew that he was having cognitive problems, and they hid it from the American people. They left the American people vulnerable. We were actually vulnerable. Who was running the country? That's supposedly that is what's being investigated now. Who had the auto pen? Because a lot of these things, a lot of the pardons, they say there was over 8,000 pardons done with this auto pen. 8,000 pardons were done, or clemency. All this stuff was done with this auto pen. So whoever had the auto pen was running the country. So we need to find out who was running the country, and these people need to be held accountable. But we know, right? We know what we know, that people are never held accountable. These people are never held accountable. And and for the normal person like myself, right, who's held accountable for whatever. I'm going to explain something next week. I won't get into it this week, but something that happened this week. We'll get into it. But the American people, and this go, whether you're a Democrat, whether you are a Republican, an independent, black, white, gay, straight, whatever, they screwed us over. Where's Bondi? TBB, Bondi is where she is in her skin, man. She's not doing anything. They're going after some people, like always, right? They go after the low level fruit. Okay, they go after the low level fruit. They're going after, the college Palestinians that's talking about Israel. They're going after them people. They're not going after people on the Epstein list. They're not going after people that that knew Joe Biden was sick. They're not going after Jill Biden. They're not going after, Jen Psaki. They're not going after her. They're not going after Raggedy Ann chick. The one that was the press conference after Psaki. After Raggedy Ann or whatever. But it's like, when are these people going to be held accountable? Because we could have been attacked. Joe Biden wouldn't have known anything about it. I played a little clip of the Ben-Hur interview last week. But that thing was 5 hours long, and he said he couldn't even stand trial because he was so cognitive deficient that he couldn't even stand trial if he was brought up on charges to have to stand trial. So, but I know there's a lot of people that are capable of standing trial, and we need to get to the bottom of this. And some people really need to go to jail, need to go to prison, and because the American people are losing faith. The American people are losing faith in these people that have been put into these cabinets. That they're losing faith on, on just about everything that's supposed to be done. Because if it was us, if it was, yeah, my brother's keeper say, she's been got. Talking about Bondi. Talking about Bondi. And I mean, but all these people, once they get there, they seem to become compromised. They seem to become, because, someone said then, out of all the players, they're really disappointed in Dan Bongino. Yeah, right? He gets there, gets to that, but then all of a sudden he becomes one of them. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. Okay, well, Dan, tell me, if he committed suicide, why were all the cameras out, man? Can you explain why nobody has lost their jobs? Can you explain that? Can you explain why nobody ever loses a lost is a better term. There you go. Nobody ever seems to lose their position. Nobody ever. And so, hey, Carolyn, I'm sorry your cat's unplugged your phone. Watch the replay. Well, we're sticking around, but but none of these people ever seem to be held accountable or go to prison. They say right now Susie Wiles is a big gatekeeper, up there, for Trump's chief of staff. A lot of people are pointing the finger at Susie Wiles now. So who's? There's a lot of gatekeepers up there, and and I'm really surprised about Dan Bongino, Cash, and I wasn't too confident in Bondi because she just does way too many interviews on Fox News, and she always did that, and it just wasn't true. It just wasn't authentic to me. I was hoping, but we still hold our breath. They saying, well, we still have to work out everything. We're going through all the files. We're going through all the videos. I'm like, yeah, you're going through all the videos to make sure that the right people are not on those videos. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. Let's just be honest, right? Okay, so I'm getting to these Tapper clips.
Jon Stewart is calling out Jake Tapper over his new book about former President Joe Biden. The comedian is questioning why Tapper didn't report on Biden's mental decline sooner after Tapper told his audience, quote, "You will not believe what we found out."
Don't news people have to tell you what they know when they find it out? Isn't that the difference between news and a secret? Breaking news in a week.
Tapper has been accused by some of being part of a broader media cover-up over President Biden's mental fitness while in office.
I'm interested in the Biden stuff because Jake Tapper's book Original Sin comes out today, which I'm looking forward to reading. And this book talks about his inner circle and how his inner circle kept his mental decline and health diagnosis from others. So I think they announced his President Biden's prostate diagnosis to get in front of that book.
Some of the other stuff that's coming out.
And whatever may be in that book. And I'm looking forward to reading it because I want to see if people like Jake Tapper, hold themselves and their networks like CNN accountable for how much they didn't report on. Because they're all complicit in not calling a thing in regards to President Biden.
Regarding his health, you mean? Regarding his health?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
I am so sick of all of this Joe Biden consternation. What Joe Biden did or didn't do, what reporters did or didn't do. And now you're still litigating something, a person who's not even in the fucking Oval Office anymore. He's not there. Why aren't you talking about the person who's there now? Who is not, doesn't seem to have so much great mental capacity. And yet Democrats are stuck on Joe Biden? Are you out of your mind? This is why Democrats lose. The answer should be Joe Biden is no longer our president. Donald Trump is our president, and that's who we should be focusing on. Why are we focusing on this? And why are we talking about an old man who has cancer, prostate cancer? Why are you kicking someone when they are down? It's absolutely ridiculous. The history books will show if they believe that Joe Biden was selfish, if they believe Joe Biden should have dropped out. Perhaps he should have. But that is not the question right now. That is in the fucking rearview mirror. What are you doing?
See, isn't it strange? Isn't it strange? They all want to look in the rearview mirror now, and I'm gonna play a couple more clips. But they all want to look past this, right? Let's look. Trump's the president now. Well, no, we just can't look at Trump's the president now if someone else was signing Biden's name to shit, right? If someone else was signing Biden's name on trade deals or signing his name on pardons or signing his name on, things that he had no idea was happening, that's a problem because guess what? It's all null and void. It's all illegal. And the person and people that knew this, that went along with this, that hid this are culpable to the crime and they need to be held accountable. So no, Don Lemon, we're not going to look past it just because Joe Biden has prostate cancer. He had, and from what doctors are saying, he had prostate cancer the entire time. That's probably why he spent so much time in Delaware. He was getting treatments. That's why he maybe got sick. Laura Loomer reported that he was, damn near dead in Vegas, and they had to cancel his appearance in Vegas and flying back to D.C. in emergency. They thought he was going to die then, I think. So no, we just can't talk about Donald Trump because he's the president now, Don Lemon. I know you would love it. I know you would like us to, but guess what? We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that, Don Lemon. We're going to focus on what the fuck we want to focus on, and we're going to focus on who had the auto pen signing for Joe Biden, what Joe Biden knew, what he didn't know, who knew it, when they knew it, how long they knew it, and who covered it up. And Kamala Harris is part of that. They don't want you to say that either. Kamala Harris is part of that, right? And so Susan asks me, she says, who would I put on the stand in a trial if I could pick anyone? Who would I put on the stand in a trial if I could pick anyone? Anyone as far as Joe Biden is what we're talking about? As far as the Joe Biden stuff, or as far as what exactly? Just be a little more specific on which trial, because there's a lot of trials that can be had, right? There's a lot of trials that could, that should be going on right now. There's a lot of trials that should be going on right now, right? I mean, but if we're specifically talking about Joe Biden, right? The one person that I would put on the stand is Jill Biden. I would put Jill Biden on the stand because she's been seen sitting in the presidential chair on Air Force One. See, nobody's supposed to do that, but she's been seen sitting in the presidential chair. So if we're talking about Joe Biden specifically, how long, who knew, what you knew, I would put Jill Biden on the stand. That's who I would put on. Absolutely. And then of course a whole lot of others. So oh man, the jury of his peers, lemon like Jeffries. One turn page. Yeah, so we mentioned, thank you for about TVB. Yeah, so Lemon is a Nimrod, no doubt. And other people, my brother's keeper over here doesn't have any faith in Bondi either. Okay, but so someone said Lemon, like Jeffries, wants to turn the page. And I just so happen have a Hakeem Jeffries clip.
Is going to meet this moment with the courage and resilience that he's consistently shown. Seems to me entirely inappropriate that at this moment in time, when President Biden is dealing with a serious and aggressive form of cancer, there are Republicans who are peddling conspiracy theories and want us to look backward at a time when they actually are taking health care away from the American people. No, as House Democrats, we're going to look forward. They literally are trying to take health care away from millions of Americans at this very moment in the dead of night. And Republicans want to fan the flames of conspiracy theories at this moment? No, thank you.
Let's be clear. They're taking millions of, they want to call it healthcare away from illegals. Let's be honest. Nobody's losing their healthcare. Yeah, you can't get transgender affirming care anymore. That's not going to be paid for. Yeah, but you still have your basic healthcare. Okay, so let's not continue to lie to the people, Hakeem. And we're not just going to move forward, Hakeem. We're not just going to move forward. I mean, they just lie, man. They just totally lie to you. Who in their right mind? Who in their right mind would actually trust what Democrats say? Trust what Democrats say. I mean, even in the black community, you guys have been voting for Democrats for how many years? How many years have you voted Democrats in your communities or in your family? How many years have you voted for Democrat? And nothing has changed. And nothing has changed. Right? So we definitely need to focus on Biden. And like I said, because and I still to say this, the 2020 election was stolen. We still have to focus. We still have to find out what happened with that. Nobody wants to talk about that, but we still need to know what happened to that. And as far as the history books, man, a jury of his peers is not the history books. TBB says so. I like my brother's keeper. Why are you gay? Why are the clowns? You're funny, but hey, TBB agrees with me. Jill would be number one. Jill, hey, TBB, we think alike, man. I love it. I love it. TBB would be number one. Okay, so Susan says, any trial that could occur, not Hollywood. Oh, shoot. Well, I think the biggest thing, I think the biggest scandal right now in a trial that I would bring forth, would definitely be the Joe Biden. Would definitely be the Joe Biden thing. Yeah, for any trial that could occur, that if I had a choice of trials that can occur, because they've already had the Epstein trials. They already know the people. Just start arresting people. We don't need any more trials. You have the videos. You have the videos. This is blowing my mind. So, okay. Let's think about this for a minute. So we have the Attorney General of the United States. We have the FBI director. We have all these people that have probably seen these videos, right? And these are blackmail videos. So you know exactly what's in the videos. People are raping, sleeping with little kids. You know what's in the video. You see faces. Just go arrest motherfuckers. Just go arrest people. You know what they're doing. It's on video. You don't have to wait anymore. It's on video. You said there's over 250 videos. You have the videos, Pam Bondi. Why aren't you arresting people that you see on the video? It's just not rocket science. It's not rocket science. You have the videos. So, but yeah, it would definitely be the Joe Biden scandal. And Carolyn said, why the hell is there an auto pen in the White House? A bunch of vigilantes could take over the White House and rule the country by morning. There should not be anything. There should not be an auto pen. Trump never uses an auto pen, right? But there should not be an auto pen. It's okay. You can use an auto pen for something like because I know I got freaking, certificates from all the presidents that I served under, when I retired, right? So I got letters from all of the presidents. I'm sure they signed that shit with an auto pen, right? Okay, that's fine. Sign that shit with an auto pen. But when we're talking about things like pardons, when we're talking about, you're signing bills, you're signing executive orders, you better know what you're signing. There should not be an auto pen on an executive order. There shouldn't. There should not be an auto pen on a pardon. 8,000 of them? 8,000? Wow. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna play this. And Megyn Kelly, like I said, I used to hate Megyn Kelly. Remember when Megyn Kelly tried to, cut Trump off at the knees in 2016? She was a real bitch, right? Okay. I like Megyn Kelly now. See, people can change. I can change my opinion about people, right? And Megyn Kelly, and she's, self-proclaimed she's vaccine injured. I think that may have something to do with her change on things, because she know that the conspiracy theories, we're undefeated, right? We're undefeated, the pure bloods. We're not worrying about dying. We don't have heart injuries and shit. Show comments on stage. What is this? What is this button? No. Okay, well, I think the comments on stage can be live streamed now or something. Let me know if you guys see the live stream. There's a bunch of things happening. But anyway, Someone may have guidelines, so you might can see the comments. I know I can put them up on the screen. I can show the screen, like I can show Carolyn's comments, you know. I mean, but if I went down all the freaking comments, man, it'd be kind of crazy, you know. And so got that, and Getter. If you're on Getter, you're just doing your thing on Getter over there. I don't know if it's showing up on the screen for I don't think so from Getter, but all right. So anyway, I'm gonna play this Megyn Kelly. And so I'm a fan right now of Megyn Kelly. I like what she's saying. I like the things that she's doing because she's being honest. She's not placating and for a network. Okay, she's not being restricted to what she can and what she can't say and getting paid by people to do certain things. Okay, so I'm gonna play this Megyn Kelly and let you guys hear it in its entirety.
That June 27th debate, 2024, there was a ton of news leading into that debate in that month. And we looked back at your coverage and found that you ignored it. Not only did you ignore the Jackie Walorski moment when you had him 13 days later, but you ignored the freeze up that he had at the Juneteenth celebration. You ignored what happened at the G7 when he wandered off and Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy, had to go find him. You ignored the freeze up at the George Clooney LA fundraiser. You didn't cover it. You only covered it after the debate, after George Clooney wrote his op-ed. Jake, nobody made you do that. There was your network at every turn was telling us those were, quote, cheap fakes. And you were not combating that narrative. CNN was actively misleading us on what our very eyes were showing us. That's the truth. That's the record.
But yeah, I remember that moment. And I remember that moment, the glitch at the immigration event, and not getting much attention outside of conservative media at all. And Alex and I are here to say that conservative media was right and conservative media was correct. And that there should be a lot of soul searching, not just among me, but among the legacy media to begin with, all of us, for how this was covered or not covered sufficiently. 100%. So, I mean, I'm not here to defend coverage that I've already acknowledged I wish I could do differently. I did ask Joe Biden to be transparent about his health records in an interview in 2020. I did ask him about the fact that voters
but then he wasn't.
Thought that he was not transparent at all. No.
He promised you that he would be transparent about his health records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again,
at all.
including 1 month after the Jackie Walorski thing, you didn't ask him about it. You didn't follow up on the fact that he was falling up the stairs, that he was losing his train of thought regularly, that he was slurring, that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
That's true. But I did ask him about his age and the fact that the American people had concluded that even though he said whenever anybody brought up the subject of his age, watch me. And I said, yes, they're watching you and they are concerned that you were too old for this job.
But you know as well as I do that there's a way of, you can say, hey, there's this poll on your age, or you could say, you just forgot that Jackie Walorski was dead. You asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her. You lowered the flags at the White House after she died. This happened 13 days before you sat with him. There is a way of pressing a man like that on the actual infirmities to bring it home to him and to the audience, and you didn't do it.
That's correct. I didn't. And like I said, I feel humility about my coverage. I mean, it's not like I was asking him his favorite movie or his favorite color. We were talking about Putin. We were talking about other issues of national importance.
And you didn't cover mental acuity, hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seemed to be running cover for the president.
I don't
seem
think
interested.
That's true.
Well, I mean, we'll start with the Laura Trump issue that you referred. Here it is. This happened in 2020.
Joe Biden, as we all know, has worked to overcome a stutter. How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
You are
to
no
watch somebody on stage search for
that's so
questions.
amazing.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
And it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel
Laura
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern. We all believe that. Laura Trump, thank you so much.
Do you want to apologize to Laura Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
And what did she say?
I mean, I don't want to disclose the contents of a private conversation, but I thought the conversation went well. And she has said this publicly, so I feel fine sharing it. She said that she would never mock anybody's stutter. But I mean, after we did the research for this book, and I realized how bad his acuity issues were, I called Laura Trump and I said, you were right.
She was totally right. That's the thing, because when I watched that clip, and I'm giving voice to what a lot of people watching the show are feeling, Jake, I feel angry because she was right. And not only did you not allow her to make her comments, but you seemed to try to humiliate her. You had a hostility toward the position, but she was totally right. And then you lectured her on how she was in no position to diagnose cognitive decline, which you guys do at length, including on page 4 of your book. You describe at length his cognitive decline, which is all she tried to do with you. But you had such a visceral reaction to her. And my feeling is that's because you didn't want to hear it.
No, I'm happy to talk about this. I didn't come here thinking that you weren't going to ask me about this. So I'm happy to talk to you about it.
No, I know.
The first time I saw the coverage of Laura Trump's comments, which were interpreted as her mocking Joe Biden's stutter, was in January 2020. I read it in conservative media. I read it in the Daily Mail. And that's where I saw that her comments were being interpreted that way. After those comments were publicized, it got a lot of coverage. And Sully Sullenberger wrote an op-ed in the New York Times criticizing her about this. So that's the context for that, that I was following up on a story that had been out there months before. This is also in the context of October 2020, a very intense time. People on the Biden side are saying crazy things about Trump. People on the Trump side are saying crazy things about Biden, including Don Jr. suggesting that Joe Biden is a pedophile. So that is the larger context. But as I said, her comments have aged well. My comments have aged poorly. I own that. But I think what is significant is, in addition to me owning that, the reporting that Alex and I have done, which is beyond just, and when I say just, I don't mean to diminish it, but the comments of Joe Biden making gaffes, saying things stupid, tripping, are all important and all deserved to be aired and all deserve scrutiny. But as you know, Megan, because even though you look 30 years younger than me, we're roughly the same age, Joe Biden has been saying stupid things for decades. Okay?
I get what you're saying, but this minimizes it too, because it was more than saying stupid things. But I'm telling you, like over here in my ecosphere, we were covering all of these. It wasn't just falling down; it was getting lost. It was some of the stuff you report in your book. We knew, and we were reporting on, like the multi-jump cuts in the videos of him, where it was obvious he couldn't get through a 1-minute take. So they had to use those. It was clear to us that he was using teleprompter, and there was some reporting on that at the time, all of which the White House was denying. Now, with the current White House, I have some connections. With the Joe Biden White House, I had none. But you did. You did. And so while you've been in Washington 30 years, Jake, you guys, you and CNN have White House connections, but there was no effort. None to get to the bottom of this. And now for you guys to write this book like there was a cover up, it's like there was a cover up and there was an attempted cover up. It could only ever work if you allowed it.
And conservative media absolutely has every right to say we were hip to this and the legacy media was not. Now, I do not accept that I was part of a cover-up. I do not accept that I was just providing cover for Joe Biden. I think a lot of these clips are not fair. The one that is fair is the Laura Trump clip. And
we're definitely calling bullshit on this. Hold on, man. Let me. Okay. So we're calling bullshit. We definitely have to call bullshit on this because it's total bullshit. Jake Tapper's trying to sell a book. Thank you, Megyn Kelly, for wiping his ass up. Wiped him up. Cleaned him up. Thank you. Jake Tapper, you don't deserve to write a book. You don't deserve I wouldn't spend money on it because we already know what's in it. We've seen it. We all said it. We all said it. If you want to call MAGA, you want to call Republicans, whatever. We all said it when we saw it. We don't need to read the fucking book. It was live and in color. It was live and in color. Yeah, he may have a couple of other things behind the scenes that we may not know that may be, that, whatever, right? But, you know, people that's going to read the book is going to bring that out. I'm not going to waste money on it. So I'm going to play a clip here. And I'm going to tell you why I'm playing this clip, okay? And in a minute, because I'm going to sum it up for you. I'm going to sum it up why certain things didn't happen and why they were trying to do this with Trump. Okay, so give me a moment. Let me cue this up here. And so I'm old enough to remember when they were doing this.
What exactly would have to happen to invoke the 25th Amendment in this country?
Obviously, in an ideal world, you would try to invoke the 25th Amendment, which I think is amply justified.
The man is deeply mentally unstable. The cabinet should convene immediately to discuss the 25th Amendment.
If he's crazy and incompetent and stupid, then we have to look at the 25th Amendment.
People in the president's inner circle have brought up the 25th Amendment at least 20 times.
This is 25th Amendment kind of stuff.
The whisper campaign over the 25th Amendment.
We're going to talk about the 25th Amendment.
Let's talk about the 25th Amendment.
Look at the 25th Amendment.
There is the 25th Amendment.
Consider the 25th Amendment.
Maybe we should consider the 25th Amendment.
The 25th Amendment.
How likely is it that the 25th Amendment,
25th Amendment, 25th Amendment,
25th Amendment, 25th Amendment
could be invoked?
The 25th Amendment, 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 25th Amendment. I did my first 25th Amendment segment on this show about, 30 days into this presidency. 25th Amendment, 25th Amendment, 25th Amendment, 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment used the 25th Amendment.
So what was the 25th Amendment for Joe Biden? And they all knew. But yet they want to, talk about the 25th Amendment with President Trump, his first term. And they knew the man was basically a genius still. He was his mental acuity was still on point 100. But they kept throwing out this 25th Amendment. Where were all these people about Joe Biden? And they knew, right? And they all knew, but none of them. You never. Here's a challenge. Find me one instance. And I always say one. I don't say five because I know one. When I say one, it's never going to happen. Find me one instance. And this, you guys are going to be surprised by this question. You guys are going to be very, very surprised by this question. And I'm going to tell you why. Find me one instance where any Democrat or Republican, including the House Speaker Johnson and everybody in the Senate and Congress, anybody up there, anybody, any staff, anybody, a Democrat or Republican, they never mentioned the 25th Amendment against Joe Biden. And I'm going to go as far as to say they all knew. I know Mike Johnson knew, the speaker knew. They all knew about Joe Biden's mental decline for years. They all knew. You can't tell me they didn't know. All them fuckers knew. Why didn't none of them? You just saw a video where everybody was, on the left, right? Why nobody? why nobody on Fox News, or why why none of these influencers, these people, why none of them? I did, and I can show you shows where I did. Why didn't none of these people call for the 25th Amendment against Joe Biden, especially after the Ben-Hur, especially after this guy came out after the video and said that he cannot stand trial? That should have been worth the 25th Amendment there. These people knew, and they all fucking knew. None of them called for 25th Amendment. Why is that? I'm gonna let you think about it for a second. I gave the answer over on Getter already. I already gave the answer on Getter. So I want you to think about that for a minute. Yeah, I'm going to take you over for a minute, a little bit. But why didn't they? Why didn't they? Nobody. Here's the answer. Here's the answer. Right here. It's because if they had done it, and this goes for Kamala Harris too, the vice president, and it's really the vice president's job. If you knew, or if you know that the president of the United States mental capacity or is incapacitated to where they can no longer do their job, it's the job of the vice president to actually 25th Amendment, but anybody can do it, but to 25th Amendment, the president of the United States. That's the vice president's job. Why didn't Kamala Harris do it? Why didn't she do it? Here's the answer. Because none of them, zero of them, Democrats, you can talk about all the Democrats that were for Kamala Harris. You can talk about the Republicans. You can talk about Kamala Harris herself. None of them wanted Kamala Harris to be president. And if the 25th Amendment, Joe Biden, and it passed, Kamala Harris would have been president. And it's not for the reasons why you think. It's not because she was black, because one, she ain't black, or because she was Indian, because she was a woman. They didn't want her to be president because of all this racial shit. No, they didn't want her to be president because she's stupid as fuck. And she's a drunk, and they all know she's a drunk. She knows she's a drunk. They all know she's allegedly, but you see it. She could not have run the country. So what they were doing, and I mean, they, instead of 25th Amendment and do it the right way, they went with the coup because Joe Biden decided to run. They decided to oppose and do a coup on the president of the United States and install Kamala, because they know, okay, well, if we install Kamala, she's not going to have to go through a primary and not get voted on, because nobody voted for Kamala Harris for president. Nobody. Nobody. Even when she was running for president, nobody. She got 0% of the vote. Nobody voted for her president. So that would have made Kamala Harris the president of the United States. And none of them wanted it. If you can prove to me, find me one Democrat that said we need the 25th Amendment, Joe Biden. They talked all this shit about Kamala was supposed to be president. She can be president. She can be president. Why didn't she? Could have been president. She could have been president. 25th Amendment would have got her president. And there was so much proof, and they all knew. They all knew. Right? Tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Tell me I'm lying. None of them wanted Kamala Harris to be president. Period. Period. That's why. That's why. So I have one more clip to play for the night. I'm gonna get to this because this is for the pure bloods. And this is, when I have empathy for certain people, right? I have empathy for Scott Adams. I don't give a shit about Joe Biden, to be honest, you guys. It is what it is. And some people are gonna go and complain about, Bill say he ain't care about Joe Biden, whatever. You know what I found out this week, though, here is that people people love to try to control you, and when they can't control you, they try to cancel you, right? They try to cancel you or get rid of you, right? Because they can't control you. Even though it may be bad for the team or for the system, if they can't control you, man, they just try to, cancel you, bro. But this is Scott Adams. Before we get out of here, we're gonna go about 5 minutes over. But thank you, Scott Adams, for this. I have empathy for you that you are suffering with the same cancer that Biden has, and Biden knew about the cancer long before. I said it last week too. It's either two things: either he knew about the cancer and he had the cancer for a long time, or he has turbo cancer from the jabs and the booster shots. Take that for them. One of them is true. I just don't know which one. I just don't know which one is true. But because we all know these jabs are causing turbo cancers, we all know that. But this is Scott Adams, and I'm gonna let him speak.
Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you that the anti-vaxxers appear to be right. Somebody who did not get vaccinated, got a little Omicron, or maybe even a worse one, but recovered. Now you've got natural immunity, and you have no vaccination in you. Can we all agree that that was the winning path? The smartest, happiest people are the ones who didn't get the vaccination and are still alive. I want to make sure that I'm not leaving any wiggle room for myself. Have I? Have I said as clearly as possible they're the happy ones right now? And have a reason to be, completely. Right. Having said as clearly as possible that the anti-vax people seem to be the winners, I want you to hear that clearly. The anti-vax people appear to be the winners. The anti-vaxxers clearly are the winners at this point, and I think it'll probably stay that way. And I don't want to put any shade on that whatsoever. They came out the best. They have the winning position. The unvaccinated have a current advantage because they feel better. The thing they're not worrying about is what I have to worry about, which is, I wonder if that vaccination 5 years from now, because really the anti-vaxxers, I think, were really just distrustful of big companies and big government. That's never wrong. It's never wrong to distrust government. It's never wrong to distrust big companies, right? So if you just took the position, let's just distrust everything the government did, well, you won. You won. You won completely. I did not end up in the right place. Agree? You would all agree with that, right? I did not end up in the right place. The right place would be natural immunity, no vaccination. You should take victory, and I should take defeat. We can agree on that, right? That my position is now the weakest, and your position has gone from the weakest to the strongest, and that we can just say that's true. The people who didn't get vaxxed are absolutely in the winning position. You win. You win. You are the winners. You are the winners. All right, let me say that part with no ambiguity. You won. You won. All of my fancy analytics got me to a bad place. All of your heuristics, don't trust these guys, it's obvious, totally worked.
Thank you, Scott. We wish you well, man. I got prayers for you. And yeah. So you feel empathy for a guy like that. Okay. And so tomorrow, Memorial Day, and we give thanks to all the brothers and sisters that went before us and died to keep this country free. And so we shout out and salute them, because these are the people that didn't make it home. They died on the battlefield, and so those are the people that we are going to ring out tonight. So join me again next week. Next Sunday, we got a live show for you. We're going Black Man Night next week. I'm going to have an all-black male panel next week. We're going to talk about some things. So don't forget to join us next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Sunday on the Radical Republicans live show. And thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So come back next week. Come back every week. And this is what we do here, live, unedited, unscripted, uncensored, unfiltered, and definitely unapologetic. Y'all be cool. Peace.
I remember when I was much younger than now. I used to sit and listen to the news. I was the only child. And another day and another night, wishing Daddy would come home. Me and Mom couldn't sleep at night.
It just went off the fight for the things we thought were right. So determined to survive, I believe you're still alive. I sing the ballad for the fallen soldier. This is a ballad for the fallen soldier. I wrote to my congressman, he sent his regrets that he's missing in action, but don't give up yet. So many people waiting like me, who's got the answer? What could it be? His country wanted him to fight for the things they thought were right. And he tried to get us all in D.C. His name is on the wall. I sing the ballad for the fallen soldier. This is the ballad for the fallen soldier. I sing the ballad for the fallen soldier. This is the ballad for the fallen soldier. It just went off the